Okay, so I just logged into the platform, and I want to also let you know that today we also had a status update with the chief data scientist of the state of Indiana, and also the director of the Department of Workforce Development. And we also had a recent update with some of our data providers, which is SafeGraph. In case you have not heard what SafeGraph is, safegraph.com is a data provider that has been collecting mobility data, social data, GIS data, and was essential right now in the past over the last month, or let's say since March when COVID started, and providing data to scientists and also governments to understand impacts of COVID-19. Because it allows us to get access to granular data like visitor counts at certain places, social distancing metrics, or even money spent at certain brands, and so on. So actually this would be some of the data you would be using in the challenge. And the data we now give you for the training is much smaller, but is also interesting, that actually relates to testing cases, and testing cases, and also death in Indiana. And so this is just an update for you in case you haven't had a chance to attend earlier sessions. And I'll point you also to some information on the platform where you can watch either a video of some of the info sessions that are more general, or go through the slides. So you might have been registered here, I'm assuming. So you go in here, you register, and Matt, our senior developer here, is also working hard here to make sure this is useful for you. So also thanks to Matthew. So we do have here, as you can see, 3 important tabs that you should kind of know about. So the calendar actually tells you where things, not where, it's all virtual, when things happen. So we are right now here in another live tutorial. And the forum is where we announce things. So where I'll also, for example, today told you that there is new content released. So, and then we do actually have the tutorials. I'll go there in a minute. And then I think the most important thing for you is the workspace. That's the Jupyter Lab. Before I forget, you also do have actually a profile. So here's your profile information. And since IronHacks is not just a one-time activity, we actually will be launching a lot more hacks in the future with more data. The more you can actually fill that in, the more we can actually see what skills you have, and then use that to tailor future challenges. Because right now we basically designed it for beginners, but in case as you grow and learn more, you might actually want to go into new things and updating your skills. So I left it empty on purpose because I definitely do not want to bias you. But it would be good if you could fill it in. Okay, so tutorials, that is basically the important go-to for you right now, because we are right now in the warm-up phase. We haven't started the competition yet, and as soon as we started, we will actually have access to a task tab here, and also some rules, and that will all come, and then your dashboard. Right now, this is not there because it will show up later. Here are some important information. So in case you haven't looked at those info slides, tell you much more about the actual hack. And I'm not going to go through this in detail, just letting you know this is important. Also a video where I'm presenting, and you could use that. Then the part 1 was just making you familiar with actual notebooks. If you haven't never used a notebook, I will not cover that. There are 2 notebooks for that. There's an R and there's a Python notebook. Have the core focus for today, and that is how to query from BigQuery in a notebook. So I wish I had an option for a poll. So I ran a log, so some people have been querying now. I will not run a log right now, whether it's going to with us you, but I hope that you have already started to look into this. If not, it's not a problem, because I'm going to tell you how it's going to work. So before we do that, the question why are we actually using BigQuery? Because the data we got were really, really big and actually pretty messy too. And we pulled them from a bucket and we have pre-processed them and made them manageable for you, that you don't have to spend so much time on pre-processing, because we know that a large percentage of data science efforts actually go into cleaning data, and merging, joining them, etc. And that's what we did already. And that's one of the reasons why we're using BigQuery. At the same time, the next hack, in particular the intermediate hack, might be use a lot, really, really big data. Currently, the data set we have for the hack is would say it's still big, but it's not in the terabyte area, so it's still handleable, and I hope you enjoy those. And the final point is that, BigQuery is becoming more and more popular. It's one of Google's flagship product in data warehousing, and people that do work on Spark or Hadoop in the past are now shifting to BigQuery as well. So what will you exactly access? I have this also in the notebook then, and I'm going to open this now. You will access a project called IronHacks COVID-19 data. And in there we have two data sets. One is for the training and one is for the competition. So we have prepared here a notebook, and I'm using the R right now because it's actually more detailed than the Python, because in R you have actually the ability to access the data, querying it without using any SQL statement. If you are a Python person, you can just open the Python notebook here. Here this is right now in the view mode, so that's coming out of our GitHub, and then you can just look at it, or if you want to download this, that's something what I would suggest to actually code along, you can just download it here, and then it should open as a notebook. Yeah, for me so you should just then download it. I have it already, so I don't have to do this. So I would just now go to the workspace, and you should do that as well. And then we should be able to ready to go. So I'm loading this one. So the way you do this, you go in here. This is kind of the upload button, and then I guess you have downloaded it, and then I actually also have it because I have cloned GitHub, so you just kind of upload it here and then you can get going. If you want to use the Python, you can do that also and play with the Python in parallel. It doesn't really matter. It's parallel tasks. It's like the R is more detailed and offers a bit more insight into using the different packages from R. I already ran a kind of short live tutorial on this on Friday. This one is actually an updated version of that. It has more details on the on one of the back packages, and also shows the differences there. So what is the goal of this notebook? I guess in about 10 minutes you should be able to access BigQuery, and what you should be able to is you should be able to access our training data set. And the training data set that we have in here is called COVID-19 test cases death in Indiana. And you should actually see that right now without even knowing that you could actually just get this from the key, because the only thing you need right now is a key. In this tutorial, we'll be using BigQuery, which is a package that allows you to query this data stored in BigQuery. I have a documentation here. We also going to use DBI if you want to. That allows you to actually connect R to a database, DBMS. It also allows you to connect to other ones, SQL, etc. And then there's also the DIPL package, which is part of the tidyverse, which might be a package that our programmers with a stats background are very familiar with. Even if they have never used a database and never used SQL, they might be familiar with that, because it's one of the advancements in the R community. Also uses the tuple rather than the data frame standard. Okay, and what's nice, you can actually query without using SQL and without actually loading in memory. So, so let's just, what we're gonna do first, we're gonna load those packages, and I think if you have never used a notebook, that's just a shift and return or a control return, and if you do shift and return, it just brings you to the next cell. So it is loading those, and I've used the categories because I also thought maybe we're gonna do some plotting later. Then the next thing is you would have to get your key. So if you're following along, what you have to do is you have to go to your profile. And I said that earlier, and then you see here, download your hack dataset training key. You go there and download it. What you then do is you upload it again, and I suggest you put it in the highest highest level of your file structure, but you can also do it like me. I have it nested here in tutorials. Once you have that, you can then use a function from the BigQuery and then authorize your. That's an important step, because without that, you can actually work. What you then have, the next one is a BQS token function that is just to confirm for you. Do I actually have access? Does it have it? Take some time. Not sure what's going on. True, so it has it. I guess it was my internet a bit slow right now. And then I can also use a BQ project. That's also a BigQuery command, and then I can get the list of projects. And then I can also get the actual data sets that lists that. And once I have that, then I establish my connection, and here I'm using the DBI package. Once I then have established the connection, I can also list the tables in there. So without actually knowing what table you'll get, you get just some correct. I think then we should all set to go. What I'm still going to show you in the next one is actually how to use the table package without using a SQL command. So they allow you to load the packages, load the table, and without getting it into memory. So what's important also, that's why I run now the class command. It's actually not yet a table, it's actually an SQL object. And that's important because you cannot perform operations on it that you would perform like if it was a data frame. So you would actually then bring it into memory. But you can do a lot without bringing it into memory. You can see that column names, you know what's in there. You can also say, I want to now summarize it. And here you see that warning. That's kind of normal because the standard here, missing values are always removed from SQL, and I just use it once in a session. You don't have to worry about it. And then it brings you the classic output of a tibble. So I did the mean in there for the tests, the mean and cases that we have. You see also the range, 2020, 02, 06, and here are the data until just very recently, and they have 152 entries. And see, I don't use any SQL command or anything. I just do it. Here is also then I say I want to actually sub-select it for a time frame, and then use the very powerful pipes from DIPL, so you can actually bring it one after each other, and then you have that. And once you have that, you can again summarize. That was kind of the goal of this tutorial, that you sub-select for a certain time frame and to describe it. I'm not doing anything in memory yet. And I can even plot without having it in memory. And that's, I think, the nice piece about that library, because you can do that before you decide which data you actually want to bring into memory. That's important when you work on big data, because you can already look at that. So here you see our tests. I could put that into one plot. Sure, I would have to melt it or gather it. But here you see a little bit of the development of the cases. There's some kind of an outlier here. It's kind of funny. That was just for 1 month that I plotted. So if you then actually decide, I want to work with a smaller data set, because I've decided in my model, and you can also do, to do other summary statistics, you want to bring it in, then you can actually bring it in as a tibble, and then you can do all those operations you would do if it was a tibble. And yes, so this one you could never perform if you would just load it as an SQL object. So that was with the DIPL, and now we can do the same also with DBI and SQL statements. So what I'm doing right now, the second part, actually repeating the same thing again, but as you can see, I use a SQL language. And so we do the same. We first summarize what's in there, or try to get the heads and the actual barrel names. So I just load the first head. Then here, just to clarify for you, it should be, I should have removed that. I didn't mean that earlier. What's the class of that object? It's again a BigQuery result, so it's not a data frame. Also, queries on this. You then use here the send query command and fetch. And you would also see that it's again a BigQuery result. So it takes a bit of time because it's not interacting with the BigQuery. And then we should get that result. So I wanted to summarize it. I want to have the min date, the max date, and the average test cases, average count, and log. You might notice that the DIPL package automatically rounds, and then you specify it as a property in the function. Here with the DBI connection, it doesn't do that. It doesn't round it. Yeah, and now I said, let's select a subset, and it works kind of with the where date between function. And then we should get the same thing. We can summarize it also. And then you can not plot it. That was also kind of the demonstration purpose. If you use the DBI, you can't run plots on it. You actually have to bring it into memory. This is also, I'm going to show you this. This, must-be data frames are going to work. That's why if you decide I want to visually explore the data with the DBI package, you actually have to bring it in. And how you do that is to use the DBA get query command, and rather than just the send query. And if you have that, then you can also just plot it. So that was my goal, to show you the two different ways of doing it. If you know SQL, perfect. If you don't, you can also work with DBI if you're not. And our programmer, one second. You can also open here this one. That's also a way of doing that. For sure here, kind of the same, to walk you through this. It uses pandas and NumPy here, and there's a BigQuery package. You see, you actually don't have to install it because it is already installed. And here is, you would have to substitute that as well with your, whatever you call it here. And here you use the classical select from statements, and then you can actually also explore the table. And here this is all with SQL command. So that's the way to do it. If you work with Python, you actually have to do it with SQL. In R, you don't have to. You can. That's it. These are also for Purdue available. And for you to run, what's important though, you need to change the credentials. You can't work with our names. And one thing I need to also emphasize is you always have to put in home Joe1, because this is a container. So if you don't do it that way, it's not going to work. You can just follow it along, but you can also just explore that from here, where actually the path is. If you will. So, and that's why I, for example, have loaded my self-service account, and then from here you actually know what you have to put in there. And if you then do W, you see actually what you have to put as a path. So this is what you have to use. You can use that, explore it yourself with a terminal, or you can just follow now the instructions. Then we go back to this one and say always put in home, then this Jovan names, and then wherever your JSON file is located, you would have to substitute that. You don't actually have to look into the terminal, just always do that one. And then this, if you have it at the highest level, just put it there. And if you have another folder created, you just have to do it like me, nested. That's on my side. Let me see where I can go back to the camera, because when I'm here, I'm not seeing. if people raise questions. Are there any questions? Today we will be recording that, and let me just start presenting. And we will also share that video then from this coding right now. But I think you're good to go. Just remember that you put the right path for your key so they can actually query the database. If you now have a question, there's a chat window. You can just type in here. We're not too many people. The example is available in our tutorial. So let me just again give you the link to the tutorial. So we have on our platform, you need to go to our platform, and there's tutorials. So if you go to the tutorials, everything is there. Let me just send that link again. So if you go to this page and you open this one, and then I can again share my screen. You just share the screen that you actually know where you have to go. So and by the way, you can also unmute yourself. I think it's going to be fine if you want to. 1 second. Here, so I'm going to the platform again. So once you're logged in, if you're a registered user, I think I have to. Let me just, 1 second, let me go back here. So you go to registered hacks, and then you're in a hack, and there's tutorials. So everything that is available that we show here, all these examples are here. So the one that I just showed is available for download here. So my hope was that you could even use it while I show it to you. Maybe I was a little bit too fast, but you can download that. And then once you've downloaded, you just upload it again here on the workspace. So I actually have it here. So this you upload it, and then you should see my example here. Okay, and that's it. So everything we actually show you is available on our platform. Everything that we do in those sessions. So the Python notebook is also available here that I just showed you. There's other also notebooks, just in general, what's a notebook? That's, for example, available here. That's what we showed last week. Was a general insight in how to work with a notebook. Let me open that for you as well. That was a very simple introduction. What is a notebook? And also it introduced the cell structure and how you work with cells. And it takes you 10 minutes to get familiar with a notebook. And for those that don't come from a notebook environment, this might be something to start with. That you're also aware of that in a notebook, you can actually use Markdown language. You can just use raw text and code. And with that, it's quite important because you will actually, in the hack, you will be submitting a notebook, and you can communicate the results, not just with the code, but you can actually also put in Markdown language like I do. So if I click on this, you see that's written in Markdown. And I can even embed, embed images. And, but at the same time, for sure, you can also then execute code. There are a lot of shortcuts. And we actually provide you also with a cheat sheet here because you don't have to use the mouse. You can do a lot with, AB, go buff, and so on. So I suggest that you also look at that if you have never used a notebook before. Let me go back here to the meet. Are there any further questions? Okay, we have just a few more people joining. Okay, great. So if there are other people having questions, please share them now. I know you might be joining in late. You haven't actually followed along. But let me just emphasize for kind of everybody, all the things we show in these live sessions, we make them also afterwards available so that you can code, use it. But you can also code along during those sessions. Okay, so in our tutorial section, you find everything. You also find information slides that gives you an idea about like more of the challenge content. And there's also the calendar, so please use that calendar because the calendar actually tells you when things happen. We currently don't have a timer that time's up right now that you know, okay, the hack starts there. But we will be adding that back again. But you know, that you also look a little bit at the timelines that are coming up. If you have any further questions, please post that in the forum because we are happy to hold additional live session if needed on additional topics. We can just also put together another tutorial. So that's also something that would be good to know if you have any particular needs. We focused on BigQuery and Notebook because that's what we learned from the registration, that BigQuery, we have never done that before. Many haven't used it before. So we want to make sure that you know how to access it. Any other questions then? If not, I hope to see you using now the database, and it's the data you have is real data. It's temporal data. You will also get temporal data in the actual contest. Just much richer data compared to what we have right now in the training. That's just smaller data set. We wanted to keep it simple so that you're not overwhelmed, but at least can handle the access to the BigQuery and play around a little bit with this data set. And in the hack, you get not just one single table, you get a few, and also much more entries on more variables. Okay. Then thanks for joining. We wanted to keep those short, 30 minutes. If there are any further questions, send a note or put a note on the forum, and we look forward to maybe seeing you tomorrow, or we're holding another session or info session. And if not, you know, stay in touch and watch out, follow out watch out for our emails and inform you about next steps. Anything else the rest from the team would like to add? Otherwise, I would